Hi, I'm Ed Kelley, editor of the Oklahoman. Well, Barack Obama's been a busy man in the 4 weeks since his election, assembling a leadership team. To talk about some of these appointments is Washington insider Chris Casteel, chief of the Oklahoman's Washington Bureau, and a frequent contributor here on News OK TV. Chris, he introduced his national security team today in Chicago, and there were lots of big names, led by Hillary Clinton, his nominee for Secretary of State. Were there any surprises in any of these announcements?
Well, no surprises, Ed, in the sense that, of course, all these names have been leaked before. They've been out there for a while, especially Senator Clinton's name, but also Eric Holder, the nominee for Attorney General, and the National Security Advisor, retired Marine General James Jones. So no surprise there. No surprise in terms of the amount of experience and brain power that these people bring to these positions either. I mean, President-elect Obama has made it clear that when he was talking about change, it didn't mean that he intended to bring a bunch of neophytes to Washington and put them in his cabinet. But I guess that, there are probably some people who are surprised that he would have asked Robert Gates, the defense secretary, to stay on indefinitely. I mean, here is a man who's managed a war that President-elect Obama has been against. And two, in picking General Jones, whose most recent job is over at the U.S. Chamber's Energy Institute. He's picking a guy who's advocated for more drilling off the coast of the U.S. and expanded nuclear power, things that President-elect Obama does not agree with. And, of course, energy is a huge national security issue, so we'll see how that plays out.
Chris, you mentioned Bob Gates, the holdover from the Bush administration as Secretary of Defense. And when Senator Obama was on the campaign trail, obviously he was very critical of the Iraq policy that Bob Gates was a part of. What were his reasons then for keeping him on, at least in the short term?
Well, I think first and foremost because Bob Gates is just a fine public servant and defense secretary. I mean, he has held that Pentagon accountable. He's brought accountability back to the Pentagon. I think you remember after the Walter Reed scandal and the treatment of some of the injured troops over there, the heads rolled after the mistakes with the nuclear weapons shipments. The top Air Force people were fired. And he's gone about it in a methodical, reasonable way. His ego's not on display. Actually, you rarely see him hold press conferences or draw any kind of attention to himself. But he's got, I think, incredible experience, obviously, in intelligence also. He was the director of Central Intelligence after spending a career there. So he just brings a wealth of background and experience to the job. And, of course, this is a tough time for Obama to be coming in. You've got two shooting wars going on. You've got this transition in Iraq going on. So I think that he looked at the man that Bob Gates is and decided it would just be nice to have this guy stay on for a while.
Right. Can we assume that all the appointments who need Senate confirmation that Barack Obama formally introduced today will get it and get it pretty easily?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, you never know what's going to come up, as we've seen so many times, even after extensive vetting. There will be questions of Eric Holder, the nominee for Attorney General, about the very controversial pardon of Mark Rich, in which he played somewhat of a role at the end of the Clinton days. And there's no telling, I guess, what could come up in terms of not Senator Clinton's qualifications to be Secretary of State, but in former President Bill Clinton's donors to this foundation of his and any possible conflicts of interest. But other than that, obviously, Bob Gates, won't have any trouble. But other than that, I think they'll, you have to know that there was probably some back channel discussions with the Obama camp and the Senate leaders, both Republican and Democrat, to make sure, hey, if I nominate these people, am I all but assured that they're going to get through? Then I'm sure that they were, given some assurances.
Right. Well done, Chris. Thanks. Stay here on News OK for more coverage of the Obama transition process.